In the early hours of September 2nd, 1666, London was asleep. Inside a bakery on Pudding Lane, a small fire began to grow. At first, it may have seemed like one more emergency in a city of open flames, wooden houses, crowded workshops, and narrow lanes. But London was dangerously exposed. The summer had been dry. The wind was strong. Timber buildings stood close together. Warehouses near the Thames held materials that could feed a fire once it began. Within hours, the blaze was no longer burning one street. It was consuming the old city. Homes vanished, churches collapsed, families fled with whatever they could carry. And one of the most powerful cities in Europe watched its medieval heart disappear into smoke. But the Great Fire of London was not only a story of destruction, it became a turning point. From the ashes, a different London would begin to rise. London in 1666 was already wounded. Only the year before, the Great Plague had killed tens of thousands. Trade had been disrupted. Fear had settled into daily life. Even as London recovered, its streets remained vulnerable. Much of the old city was built from timber. Upper floors leaned over narrow lanes. Shops, workshops, inns and warehouses stood close together. Fire was used for cooking, heating, baking, metalwork and light. In a city like this, one spark could become a catastrophe. The fire began in the bakery of Thomas Fariner, also spelled Farinot. The exact cause is uncertain. Evidence suggests it may have started from embers or sparks connected to the ovens, but the full details were never firmly established. What mattered most was not one single mistake. It was the world around the fire. Dry weather made the city flammable. Wind pushed the flames forward. Buildings were close together. There was no modern fire brigade, and the most effective response was often to pull down buildings ahead of the flames to create a firebreak. But in the first hours, that response was delayed. The Lord Mayor of London, Sir Thomas Bloodworth, hesitated to order large-scale demolition. Destroying homes meant destroying private property, and that decision carried legal and political consequences. But this was not a normal fire. As Sunday passed, the flames moved beyond Pudding Lane, feeding on timber, stored goods, and the wind itself. People carried furniture into the streets, loaded carts, and turned to boats on the Thames. But the fire moved faster than many could escape it. Houses burned, shops burned, warehouses burned, churches burned. The flames did not simply move through streets, they moved through lives. Every destroyed building meant families without shelter, merchants without goods, craftsmen without tools, and communities without the places that had held them together. One of the greatest losses came when the flames reached old St. Paul's Cathedral. For generations, St. Paul's had been one of medieval London's defining landmarks. Some believed its stone walls would protect what was stored inside. But stone alone was not enough. Wooden scaffolding stood around parts of the building. Books, papers, and goods had been placed there for safekeeping. When the fire took hold, lead from the roof melted, stone cracked, and the old cathedral collapsed into ruin. London was not only losing houses, it was losing symbols of its past. As the disaster grew, King Charles II and his brother James, Duke of York, became more directly involved. Soldiers, sailors, and organized work crews created firebreaks by demolishing buildings in the path of the flames. In some areas, gunpowder was used to bring structures down quickly. By Wednesday, September 5th, the wind had weakened. The firebreaks began to hold. The flames were gradually brought under control. London had survived, but the city that remained was almost unrecognizable. Around 13,000 houses were lost. 87 parish churches were destroyed. Major civic buildings burned, including the Royal Exchange and Guildhall. Old St. Paul's Cathedral was gone. Tens of thousands of people were left homeless. The official death toll was small, but historians treat that number with caution. The true human cost cannot be known with certainty. In the aftermath, fear spread quickly. London was already shaped by religious tension, political suspicion, and war with the Dutch. Rumours blamed foreigners, others blamed Catholics. But there was no evidence that the fire was part of a foreign or religious plot. The Great Fire was most likely accidental. It became catastrophic because several weaknesses came together at once. Dry weather, strong wind, crowded streets, flammable construction, dangerous stored materials, limited firefighting tools, and delayed demolition. It was not one cause. It was a chain of failures. After the flames died, London faced a question larger than survival. What should the city become? Christopher Wren, John Evelyn, and others imagined a redesigned capital with wider streets, open squares, and a more orderly layout. But rebuilding a living city was more complicated than drawing a perfect plan. Property boundaries, money, and urgency shaped what was possible. London was not rebuilt as an entirely new city. Its old street pattern largely survived, but important changes were made. New building rules required stronger materials. Brick and stone replaced much of the timber construction that had helped the fire spread. Fire prevention became a more serious part of urban planning. The strongest symbol of the rebuilt city was the new St. Paul's Cathedral. Designed by Christopher Wren, it rose where the old cathedral had fallen. Its great dome did not erase the disaster. It stood because of it. The Great Fire did not rebuild London overnight, but it exposed the dangers hidden inside the old city and forced London to imagine a safer future. In September 1666, the medieval city burned. But from that destruction came a different London. A city rebuilt with caution, a city marked by memory, a city shaped by fire. Fault lines of history. Like and subscribe if you would like to hear more documentaries about the turning points that changed civilization.